Hello everyone. So you are an intermediate violinist and only have 5 minutes to practice. You are very short in time. What should you do? Okay, I will show that right now in this video. So the first thing you do is to get started with your skills. And it really depends on what level you currently are at. But because this is an intermediate video, I will show you two possibilities. If you are currently practicing your third position, I am recommending a 2-octave scale. That will look like this, and you can practice it with me right now if you have your violin here, so you can directly do the warm-up for today already. So we are going to play a 2-octave G major scale right now. That goes all the way from G to G in third position. So let's play that together, and I'm going to mention the notes in the scale so you know how to practice it at home. We are playing only long bow strokes, and I'm using a metronome. And I'm putting it on 60, and I'm going to play one long bow stroke on each 2 beats. So you have one bow stroke for each 2 beats. So you hear 2 times the metronome in one bow stroke. Okay, so let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on the way back, I'm going to mention all the notes. We start in third position, fourth finger, third finger, second, first, fourth on D. Stay in third position. 2, 1, switch back to first position. If this scale is already getting easy, you can also do the more difficult version, which is the 3-octave scale. Again, let's practice the scale in G major. 1, 2, 3, 4. You will start with G. And we play a regular G major scale in the beginning. We are going to switch to third position on the A string. Switch to third. Stay in third position. Go to fifth position. Fourth. And stretch the fourth finger. And back. So we use a stretch fourth finger. Now to third. And use the entire bow. Switch back to first position on the A string. So now we have played a 2-octave G major scale or a 3-octave major scale. So that is the first thing we do. Depending on where we are at, we are either playing a 2 or a 3-octave scale. If you are already familiar with third position, you can add the fifth position and add the 3-octave scale. So now we are going to the next exercise. This will depend a little on what you are currently practicing. What piece are you working on, and what is the bow stroke that you are currently working on? Maybe you are working on martelé bow strokes. In that case, you can repeat the scale in martelé. Or up bow and down bow staccato, whatever you wish to call it. Or maybe you are practicing spiccato. Then you do the same scale in spiccato. So you are checking what scale, what bowing technique am I currently practicing, and then you play the scale again, integrating that bowing technique. If you are currently not practicing any specific bowing technique, I recommend to work with slurs and work your way up. So check how much time you have, but depending on how much time you have, you start with 2-note slurs. 3-note slurs. So you use one bow stroke for each 2 clicks of the metronome, and then you use the amount of slurs you wish to use. You can make it more and more difficult for yourself. You can make maybe you can make 8-note slurs out of it. You can even make it more than that. You can make as many slurs as you wish, depending on what level you wish to go to and how much time you have. So you can go all the way up to 6 notes for each half bow stroke, so 12 notes on a whole bow. Now let's go to the next exercise. You have only 5 minutes, so let's just imagine you are practicing this skill 2 times, one with your bow stroke, one time with the long bows, and try to use your full bow. Especially if you are in the intermediate stage, you really need to be using your full bow stroke, so make sure to not start over here, but all the way in the beginning of the bow stroke, at the frog, all the way to the tip. Now we are going to the second phase, and that is arpeggio. You are going to practice your arpeggios, and in this case we are going to practice 3-octave arpeggios, but you can also choose 2 octaves if you feel like that is still a challenge and you are currently working on 3rd position. So you're more like in the lower intermediate phase currently. In that case, we are going to play 2-octave arpeggio will look like this: G, high second, D, first finger on the 3rd position on the D string, 3, 1, 4. You can also go 1 octave higher, and you can actually make it a little easier for yourself by sliding towards the notes, also in if you go to the 3rd position. So you start like this: D, D, slide to 3rd position. Now we continue: 3, 1. We are going 1 octave higher. We are sliding towards the next one. Slide back. So what we are doing here is to sliding towards the next position, and what makes it easier is to slide at the end of your old bow stroke. So what do I mean with that? In the moment we change positions, we want to make the switch at the end of the bow stroke that we used for our last note, and not at the beginning of the new bow stroke. So what I mean with that, if we go like D, switch to 3rd position. If you want to search for the 3rd position, we search at the end of the old bow stroke. So the old bow stroke would be the D. That is the last bow stroke we use before we go into position. At the end of the bow stroke, you can search for the right position, and in a new bow stroke, you already want your finger to be ready. Switch. bow stroke. So this is the old bow stroke. And in a new bow stroke, you play already the note in position. That is how you practice the arpeggios. Make sure to slide towards the notes if you aren't completely sure yet where they are. That will really help to get more comfortable playing arpeggios over the entire violin. So that are the two things I definitely recommend to do on the moment that you have 5 minutes. Now, maybe your 5 minutes are over now because you have practiced your skill, you've practiced it with a specific bow stroke, you've practiced your arpeggio, but maybe you have 1 or 2 minutes left. And in that case, I would go to your current piece. So maybe you are practicing. So I have no idea what you're currently practicing, but maybe there's a difficult part in a current piece that you wish to practice. Maybe you are practicing Vivaldi and you want to master the part that goes like. So then you can just only work on that part. So you don't start in the beginning of the specific piece you are working on. You only practice the most difficult part of the piece. And maybe you're practicing Four Seasons of Vivaldi. I have no idea what you are currently practicing, but in that case, take the part out that you find difficult. So maybe it would be in spring, it would be this. So maybe you have something that you find difficult over there, maybe the fast notes and the string changes, and then you are going to practice that very slowly. Maybe in this case, we are going to do speed practice, so we start slowly. And you practice only that difficult part. So in this case of speed practice, you will go a bit faster all the time. Okay, a bit faster again. Let's see if we can do it faster. And or maybe you find it difficult in the same part, you are practicing the change of positions. For instance, in this part, you have the change of position. And then you go to fourth position. You go to fifth position. I have to figure out myself what it goes like in. And fifth position. So maybe you want to practice the switch of positions. So then, in that case, you could only practice the switch of positions. So you can only practice this. First position, third position, fourth position, fifth position, sixth position. And again, go back. Sixth position, fifth position, fourth position, third position. And if you practice only the position, so you could really break that difficult part down. So for instance, right now I broke it down in both speed practice and practicing the different positions and the change of the first finger to new positions, because that are two parts of this piece that make this piece difficult. It is both the speed and the changing of position. So I broke it down to only this change of position, only the speed, and then I was practicing these parts separately. So it will totally depend on the piece you are practicing, what you are doing. The most important thing is to not start at the beginning of the piece. If you only have 5 minutes, you, in best case scenario, are already prepared. You have your piece in front of you. You always have a pencil while you're practicing. And while you're practicing, if in the longer practice sessions, especially, you are marking the places that are difficult for you, that you want to revise later on. And then if you have only those 5 minutes, you already know what you want to practice. You can be really specific. You can do targeted practice only on those bars that you wish to practice. So even if you are a beginner, you could do this, by the way. So I recommend this for any level. You practice the things that are most difficult and that you didn't master yet. So yeah, so that is what I recommend to practice. If you are an intermediate player and you wish to really quickly get some practice in and both take some time for the fundamentals. So really making sure your intonation stays good. You are working on your fundamental techniques, such as your intonation, your bowing techniques, and you are also working on your current piece with your current challenges in only 5 minutes. I think that anybody has time for these 5 minutes a day, and it will make a big difference if you take these 5 minutes. Just imagine every day you would take 5 minutes to practice a scale, a bowing technique, and a part of your piece. In what would that mean in 1 month time? And more interestingly, what would that mean in 1 year or maybe 5 years time? All those 5 minutes add up and it will make a big difference in the long run. So if you can make 5 minutes of time every day, I highly recommend to do so and to not feel like it is not enough time to practice. So often we feel like we have to practice at least 15 minutes to get enough practice in, and otherwise it isn't worth it. But even 5 minutes a day is worth it, and we don't all have the luxury of a lot of time every single day. So this is what I recommend if you have little time and still want to make progress on your violin. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm signing off now. Goodbye, and thanks for being here.